Okay, so this is a look at a very old game. It's called Tribes 2. The graphics are not important. The age of the game is not important. What we're going to look at today is a couple of gameplay mechanisms, movement mechanics that are pretty fun. They're pretty fun. They're old. They're outdated. But the general idea is there, and it's something that I'd like to implement in our new shooter, new FPS. Um, First mechanic is the ability to jetpack. So if you hold down the jetpack key, you can basically fly around. This is in addition to like a jump option. If you jump in jetpack, you actually get a bit of a better boost. But as you kind of run in jetpack, you can get yourself kind of moving around pretty fast. So I'll just go back to first person view. So initially, as you run, the jetpack doesn't do too much, or sorry, if you just kind of jetpack around it, you don't have that much momentum. But if you use your movement speed, you can get some nice effects, some nice sort of flight movements. Of course, you'll take damage if you land too hard, but you can use your jetpack to slow your descent so you can land more gently. I'll just run around a little bit and kind of show that mechanic at play. There is a limited amount of fuel in your jetpack. When it runs out, it kind of starts to sputter and it needs to recharge. The recharge indicator is in the top right of the screen, and when it just kind of recharges automatically when you run out. This particular armor, the jetpack isn't too powerful on it, but different types of armor and different levels of jetpack might have increased thrust in our game, but in this game, this is just sort of a basic idea. So yeah, anyway, that's kind of the idea. The jetpack allows you to jump and fly and get around the map in a much more interesting way than just running around. And jumping is still available, regular jumping. And when you can jump and fly, it kind of gives you an extra boost. So if you just jetpack, you kind of move up slower. Notice how you move a little bit slower, but if you jump and then jetpack, you get quite a bit of additional boost. That's because the jetpack picks up the speed at which you're moving, and it kind of propels you with the speed that you already have. So if you have less friction to work against, for example, right now your character has a certain amount of friction, and to get moving takes a bit of thrust. But if you're already moving, it doesn't. The jetpack allows you to get a faster amount of thrust more quickly. So I'm just going to run around a bit more here so you can get a better idea of how that system works. It can also help you to get up the hills a lot faster. So again, if you're running up a hill and you jetpack, it'll get you a little bit faster. But if you're running up a hill and then you jump and jetpack, it'll get you quite a lot faster up the hill. So that jump and jetpack gets you much better boost. The other interesting mechanic in this game is called skating. And so normally if you're standing on a hill, you just stand there. But if you hold down the jump button, what you'll notice kind of looks funny from the third person. But what you'll notice is that you start skating. So I'll actually go back in the first person. So you jump and you hold down the jump button, and actually it'll just kind of skate you down. So you just kind of start sliding. Now it's kind of funny how just jumping, our mechanic won't actually have that, but when the player jumps and holds down the jump key, their character will start sliding down as if skating down ice. And so this can create some interesting effects, especially if you're so here's the thing. If you're jumping, for example, and then you're skating, you keep the speed that you're moving at, and the the steepness, how steep the hill is, enables you to go faster or slower. And if you start sliding for a while down a steep hill, you'll pick up more and more and more and more speed. So this becomes really interesting. And you can see how quickly I can jetpack up that up the side of the hill, whereas running is quite a bit slower. But this becomes interesting when you start using this sliding effect in combination with your jetpack. So you can slide, and then you can fly over another mountain, and then you can hold down your jump key, so when you land you start sliding again, and now you're moving pretty quickly. And now you can jump again, and you can build up your speed. Actually, I ran out of jetpack fuel, but that's something that happens. That's something you have to watch out for. So I'll just show you a little bit more about skating and how that works. But it's really quite fun to be able to jump and slide and skate and build up your speed. So I'll just show you a good example of how much speed you could potentially build up by jumping, and I'll get a bit of height, quite a bit of height. I can kind of fly forward a bit. I'll hold down my jump key. If I don't land at too steep an angle, it won't damage me. If I did land at too steep an angle, it would probably damage me.
You're going the wrong way.
Okay, I just went out of the play boundary, so I'll just have to go back into the play boundary. But you can see I'm like skating,
all right,
flying, and hold down my jump key, so I'll start skating, flying, and you can really start to navigate the train in an interesting way. And this makes for great chases when one player's flying and skating and another player's trying to catch up with them. It can be really a lot of fun to try to evade your pursuer or catch up with them, because you get quite a lot of speed. So jumping and skating. These hills, like in our game, we actually might increase the speed at which you're skating at. So this is not a bad idea. But I wanted to cover one weapon here, actually, which is a very interesting weapon as well. This one's called the Spin Fuser in this game, and I really like the way this weapon is used. So it fires a disc, and I'll start by shooting it once. And that disc travels through the air and impacts where it hits. But this is quite an interesting weapon because it lends, because you're going to be spending quite a lot of the time in the air. It's a great weapon because you end up shooting it kind of nearby where your opponent is on the ground to try to catch them with the explosion effect. If your opponent's in the air, it's really hard to hit them because usually you miss and there's no contact. So often what you like to do with this one is you shoot them on the ground in front of them or behind them, and somewhere where that explosion catch them. And the explosion actually has an interesting effect. You'll notice if I shoot below myself, and this, I'm a little bit rusty, so I might but it'll actually propel me. Okay, I used it a little bit too close to myself. But what you'll notice is it'll actually give you a bit of a boost into the air. Of course, it does damage, but there's a knockback effect. So if you get hit by a spin fuser or an explosive weapon, and it's got a reload time, which is really good. So this is about as fast as this one can go. That's about as fast as I can fire. So that way you have sort of a more limited amount of time in between your shots, and you have to be a little bit more careful with how you're aiming. But the combination of jetpacking and flight and skating around and having all of these fast-moving physics at play makes for a really fun type of gameplay. So here I am just skating down. I'm gonna shoot. Imagine my enemy's in there. I'll be flying over top of him. He'll be flying at me, but I'll be flying in the air, so I'll have more defense because it's a little bit harder to hit. Anyway, so that's an interesting weapon idea that we're going to use. We're going to borrow that weapon idea. This one is also kind of interesting. We may use one that's kind of similar to this. And it's interesting because it bounces. It has a bounce effect. It bounces one time, basically. So we might use something like that as well. And anyway, that's the basic movement mechanic that we're going to
Here's a
start with.
tip. Armored warriors can hit high speeds by skiing downhill. Skiing uses microbursts from the jets to build momentum. It takes a lot of practice to ski well, so be patient.
Anyway, so that's the demo. That's our sort of starting point. Even though this is an old game, the physics and the mechanics of it are a lot of fun to play. And if we do a much improved version of this, I think it'll be a lot of fun. And of course we're going to add a lot of additional mechanics, but this is a really good base mechanic that I wanted to demonstrate.